Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 302 of our BU 365-day challenge. Today I want to do a couple of things. Number one, ask if there's any questions or so that I can answer them on the SOAP framework. We've gone through the SOAP framework 10 times now, and at this point, you already know if there's places that are holding you up or that you're getting hooked on or that are just really more challenging than others. Maybe it's just one of the particular components of the framework, the S, the O, the A, the P, the story, the options, the action, or the progress. But I want to know where you're getting held up. Where do we need to come up with more tools to help you to have an arsenal at your fingertips and in your subconscious to deal with any changes or challenges that come up in your life? So that's number one. Number two, I literally went through all of my different card decks. I said I don't have them right here handy, of course, because they're in a tub over there. But I have all these different card decks. Actually, I can grab this and show you. I pulled a card for every day of this challenge because I thought, well, maybe I'll share a card a day from all these different card decks. For example, here's one, Ask and It Is Given by the Esther and Jerry Hicks, The Teachings of Abraham. But I've got all these different card decks. One's on abundance, one's on prosperity, one's on planning, one's on nature and the impact of nature and different words in nature, etc. So I have all these decks, and I went through at the beginning of the year and pulled out like 400 of them probably that I thought would go along with and coincide with the different topics that we were talking about in the challenge. And some days I used them, some days I didn't. More often than not, I haven't used them. So I thought, do I want to go back to, and I guess that's my question for you. Do you want me to share one of these today? The one I pulled today, I pulled one randomly for today. And it's interesting because I was working with a coaching student yesterday on this. And they were stuck in what I call a downward spiral, a downward emotional spiral or loop. And we've talked about this briefly, but it's a really important topic. Our thinking and our mindset controls everything, right? Our feelings are tied very closely and intimately to our thinking and our thoughts and the questions we ask ourselves, and our beliefs. They're all structurally held up by our beliefs. But most of us have conflicting beliefs, right? And what happens is we'll get on a track. I don't know if you've ever done this. I know I certainly have, where we're thinking about something and we've locked into a belief that is absolutely positively false, but for us it's true because we totally believe it, and we just go round and around and around, and we just keep looking for evidence in our life and in our past experiences and our current experience to prove we are absolutely dead nuts right about this lie we're telling ourselves, and that it's really true for us. And a lot of times it is true for us. I mean, I've had periods of my life where I've been in really dire straits, and I got locked into a scarcity mentality, thinking that I didn't have enough, I couldn't do anything, I didn't know what to do, and going round and around and around in that. And my biggest, most glaring example of that in my life is when I had my sudden cardiac arrest in 2010. I didn't know it. I knew I was in a lot of emotional pain, no physical pain, but emotional pain and stress over different areas and aspects of my life that had all kind of fallen apart at the same time. Now, I dealt with lots of challenges before this, and I've dealt with lots of challenges since. But in that time, I got hit in 3 or 4 big areas of my life, and I was in massive overwhelm, and I didn't think about it until after I woke up, after I was in the coma. But I started thinking back and remembering I was in the biggest, most negative, questioning downward spiral of my life. And I remember asking myself hundreds of times a day, probably, what am I going to do about this? I don't know what to do about this. I'm overwhelmed. What am I going to do about this? I don't know what to do. And I would say that to myself hundreds of times during the day because stuff was just falling apart around me and I was freaking out, and I kept saying that. Well, that I think is partially responsible for my sudden cardiac arrest, because my subconscious was finding a way for me to stop, number one, stop that negative spiral of thinking, and number two, realize that I absolutely positively did have a way out, and that there's actually infinite possibilities to find a way out of and to solve each of those problems, but I couldn't see the solutions when I was so focused on the problems. And that's what this this card is about today. And I was talking about this exact same thing to one of my clients yesterday. And I wish I would have just shared my example that I just shared now, because I think the story would have been more powerful than us just talking about it, because I seem to have made it much, much worse. So this one says, my attention to unwanted attracts more unwanted. My attention to unwanted attracts more unwanted. I'm going to grab my magnifying glass and read this, and then just think about it today and see if you can think of examples in your life where you've had this happen. I think pretty much every person on the planet can. So it says, for every pleasing thing, there's an unpleasant counterpart. For within every particle of the universe, there is that which is wanted as well as the lack of that which is wanted. When you focus upon an unwanted aspect of something in an effort to push it away from you, it only comes closer, because you get what you give your attention to, whether it is something that you want or not. It is up to you to focus upon and attract what is wanted. That's why I say all the time, focus on what you want, not where you are, what you've got right now, what you want, what you want, what you want. It was in a workshop this week where the beginning exercise was get us out of scarcity and into abundance. And that, I don't know about you, but that's an ongoing process for me, because I grew up in a great affluent family, but we still had scarcity and lack in our beliefs, because my parents had grown up with parents in the Depression, right? And so, and they were born right at the end of the Depression. So we all have those conflicting beliefs, and it isn't until we actually acknowledge and say, okay, well, yeah, that was my parents, but that's not my belief. I don't choose to believe that. I don't have to live in lack and scarcity. I can live in abundance. But those things come up. I forgot my point. I hate when that happens. Do you ever do that? I forgot my point. Anyway, so we need to focus on, and that's why I keep saying we need to focus on what we want, what we want, what we want. Oh, the workshop, the exercise was to, instead of, there's two versions of us, right? And we can choose which identity we want to have. Scarcity lack version of ourselves, like scarcity Sharon, or abundant Sharon. And then the coach's guide was an advice, which is really great advice. And I've heard it from lots of other coaches before. And I kind of do it, but I haven't really 100% gone all in and done it. But we make our decisions from the version of us we want to be, the best version of ourselves. And I think that's really appropriate for this challenge, right? We're focusing on becoming the best and better version of ourselves a little bit every day. But are we making our daily decisions based on the best version of ourselves? I know I'm probably not most days. So that's going to be an exercise I try in my head today, is envisioning and then actually pulling back and making my decisions and choices today based on the best possible version of myself, instead of the where I am right now version of myself. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, ask. Otherwise, today we're going to take a breather, questions and answers about the SOAP framework. Think about this. Where's your focus? And I absolutely positively 100% will agree that when I'm not getting what I want, it's because I'm focusing on the lack of what I want, not on what I want. And it's a little nuance, but it's a very critical and important one. So think about that and just have a breather day. And maybe share in the comments below today for our action item, what is your best way to rest? What's your favorite way to take a time out or a breather or a rest or to recharge your batteries? Share that so we can learn from one another. Mine is spending time in nature, going for a walk, or just, reading and relaxing, etc., or hanging out with my family. Sometimes my family can be pretty stressful. How about yours? All right. Have an awesome day. If I can help you in any way, otherwise, ask your questions too. I really, really want to know and get some feedback on this SOAP framework, because I'm getting ready to do something interesting and fun with it. All right. Have a great day, and I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow.